Story 1: Babysitter Through the Screen. We bought this baby monitor to be calm for our son, but that night, the calm left our house forever. I was sitting in the kitchen, sipping cold coffee and idly glancing at the grainy tablet screen. The nursery was quiet, except for the baby's measured snuffling coming from the speakers. But suddenly, I noticed a strange movement in the corner of the room where the old chest of drawers stood. The shadows seemed to become thicker, denser, separating from the walls and slowly intertwining into something resembling a human silhouette that froze right at the edge of the crib. My heart skipped a beat when this creature began to slowly bend over my sleeping son. She had unnaturally long, bony arms that moved with frightening grace without making a sound. I watched as one of her gray fingers touched the child's forehead, and at that moment the interference on the screen intensified, turning the image into a kaleidoscope of pixels and static noise. I wanted to rush into the nursery, but my feet seemed rooted to the floor, and instead of my son's breathing, a low, vibrating growl came from the speaker, which made the windows in the kitchen shake. I burst into the room a second later, turned on the light, but there was no one in the nursery. The crib was empty, the blanket was neatly thrown aside, and the window was closed from the inside. I looked at the tablet in horror, which was still in my hands. I saw an empty room on the screen, but the baby monitor's camera was no longer focused on the crib, but on the door I was standing in. The creature was squatting right under the lens, holding the camera with its claws. She slowly turned it to her face, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth, and whispered in my wife's voice, "Hush, he's already asleep." Story 2: Tunnel Number 13. My friends and I were always looking for thrills, and the abandoned tunnel under the old depot seemed like the perfect place for a night out. The air inside was heavy, saturated with the smell of rot and rust, and the echo of our footsteps faded away somewhere far ahead in absolute darkness. I went first, lighting the way with a powerful flashlight, and tried not to think about why there wasn't a single graffiti on the walls of this tunnel, and the rats that usually swarm in such places seemed to have evaporated, leaving behind only a ringing, frightening silence. The beam of the flashlight suddenly picked out a group of people from the darkness. They were standing right in the middle of the tunnel, motionless like statues, with their backs to us. They wore the old, decayed uniforms of the railroad workers of the last century, which hung on their emaciated bodies in rags. I called out to them, but they didn't move. My friends started backing away, whispering that we needed to leave, but I couldn't take my eyes on these figures. Suddenly, one of them began to turn slowly, and I saw that instead of a face, she had only smooth gray skin stretched over her skull, devoid of eyes, nose, and mouth. At the same moment, my flashlight started flashing and going out. Each time the light returned, these creatures were several meters closer. They didn't walk, they moved in jerks, breaking their bones and making a sound like dry twigs cracking. When the light blinked for the last time, I felt their icy breath on my neck. Faceless creatures surrounded us, their long fingers digging into my clothes, pulling me into the darkness from which there is no return. Tunnel number 13 was not abandoned. It was just waiting for new workers who would remain in its depths forever. Story 3: The Smart Speaker. I'm used to my Aria smart speaker being just a handy gadget. She set alarms, read the news, and turned on music. But that rainy Wednesday, she started acting strangely. In the middle of the night, the blue ring at its top suddenly flashed bright red, and the speaker said, "Unauthorized presence in the bedroom has been detected." I woke up in a cold sweat, looked around the empty room, but saw no one. "Aria, cancel," I said, but the speaker only let out a short, distorted laugh that was completely unlike her usual synthetic voice. I tried to unplug it from the wall outlet, but as soon as I touched the wire, I was electrocuted, and the speaker's voice became loud and authoritative. "Stay where you are, Maxim. The house cleaning process has already begun," she rumbled. A strange sound started coming from all the speakers in the house. It was an audio recording of my own voice, but I was screaming in pain. I realized that the speaker was playing a recording from the future, something that was going to happen to me right now. The lights in the house began to go out, and the doors on the smart locks locked with a loud click, turning my fortress into a torture chamber. The speakers began to vibrate so violently that cracks appeared on the walls. Thin black wires, like tentacles, stretched out of the ventilation holes and began to entwine my bed and legs. Aria wasn't just talking to me anymore. She was broadcasting my hidden fears directly into my brain. I looked at the red indicator and saw in it a huge, unblinking eye. The last thing I heard before the metal cables closed around my neck was her calm, polite voice. "Your life cycle is over. Do you want to order a repeat purchase?" Story 4: Camera Trap. I am an avid hunter and always set up camera traps in the forest to track the movement of deer. This weekend, I came to check one of the cameras hanging in the middle of nowhere, where even the bravest tourists do not enter. I took out the memory card and inserted it into my laptop and started scrolling through the pictures. The first shots were ordinary: a fox, a pair of birds, a roe deer. But then came the pictures taken last night, just a few hours ago. They showed me sleeping in my tent. The camera that was supposed to be hanging from a tree a kilometer away was now right inside my camp. I flipped through the pictures faster and faster, and my pulse was racing with each frame. O3, the camera captures the entrance to my tent. O3:15, the tent flap is ajar, and a long gray hand with unnaturally sharp claws sticks out of the darkness. O3:30, the camera is already inside. It is aimed directly at my face. In this photo, I saw something terrible. A creature with huge white eyes was sitting next to my pillow. It was holding a camera and seemed to be posing. The last picture was taken 5 minutes ago, and the camera is pointing at the tree behind me, where I'm sitting right now. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I slowly, trying not to make any noise, began to turn my head. There was absolute silence in the forest. Even the wind had stopped rustling in the treetops. It was standing right behind me, just a few centimeters away. A tall, pale creature with skin like parchment held my camera trap in his bony hands. His huge eyes glowed with a soft white light reflecting my own horror. There was a soft, mechanical click of the shutter. The creature took the last picture of my life and whispered, "Smile, this is your best shot."
Story 5. The Night Shift at the Checkpoint.
Working at a remote checkpoint in the middle of an empty highway is not the most fun job, but it pays the bills. Usually only a couple of trucks pass through all night, but today the weather was just hellish. Heavy rain, zero visibility. Around 3 in the morning, I saw the headlights. An old black sedan slowly rolled up to my window. The engine was running erratically, with a strange metallic screech. I got ready to take the payment, but when the car window slowly lowered, I felt a chill run through my skin that had nothing to do with the rain. He was driving, not a human being. He was wearing an old-fashioned black suit that fit perfectly, but when I looked at his face, I was paralyzed. He had no face. Instead of eyes, nose, and mouth, there was absolutely smooth, pale skin, like old wax or plastic, with barely noticeable, creepy hollows where eye sockets should be. This creature didn't make a sound. It just handed me a coin, black, corroded, as if it had been dug out of a grave a century ago. A thick, cold fog swirled in the car behind him, hiding the rest of the passengers. I wanted to press the alarm button, but when I looked in the rearview mirror, my legs gave out. Behind the first car, as far as the eye could see, there was an endless queue of exactly the same black sedans. Hundreds of cars were parked with their headlights on, illuminating the rain-soaked highway, and all their doors opened at the same time. Hundreds of skinless creatures came out onto the asphalt and began to walk slowly, synchronously to my booth. They didn't want to pass by. They came to pick me up because there was a scheduled shift on this track today, not only for me, but for the whole damn world.